Gorden Tallis, James Graham, James Hooper. A very good afternoon, my friends. How are we?
I'm fantastic. What a weekend of footy. Obviously, it started last week in Vegas, but to come here today and see like a derby, like a Queensland derby, I'm excited. I've loved the footy over the weekend. Started with 4 upsets, and it sort of continued.
Yeah, well, we will. I don't know if it continued last night. Parramatta 26, Parramatta 26, Dogs 8. Dragons 28, Titans 4. We'll unpack all of that. James Graham, a very good afternoon. Good to see you. You're back. You're in a lot better shape than what you were last time I saw you in Vegas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's right.
I thought I was going all right in Vegas,
dusty,
to be honest.
Dusty is how I would call it.
Had a good time.
Yeah.
But you know what? You just soldier on. Resilience.
You don't have a lot of that
resilience.
These days.
You just keep on going.
Well, one bloke that hasn't got a lot of resilience, and look, can we just talk about the elephant in the room? What has happened to you, James Hooper? You've got lips like you've had injectables and bee sting. Your lips have been bee stung. What has happened in the last 24 hours? I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, he's had a bit of work done. This bloke, he's become real vain.
I'll level with you, Ben. I've been watching a lot of the Kardashians, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go and get a bit of filament because I know that'll go down well on the Sunday sin bin.
Yeah, well,
it'll give you plenty of material. No, on a serious note, obviously, last week in Vegas, outstanding. I disagree with you about Jimmy's performance over there. I thought he polled Dally M points. He was certainly in the 3, 2 and 1 contention stakes. And then the footy so far has been absolutely outstanding this week. To Gordy's point, I love the fact that we've seen a lot of upsets. It's been unpredictable, and there's plenty of narratives to come out of the opening round.
We will unpack all of those matches that have happened. Just to recap the weekend so far, it started on Thursday nights. Raiders 28, Knights 12. On Friday, it was the Sharks 16, the Warriors 12 in an upset. Melbourne, too good for the Panthers, 8-0. And then yesterday, Eels 26, Bulldogs 8. And the Dragons finished off last night 28 points to 4 over the Titans. We'll get to all of them. We are at Suncorp Stadium, and the rain is tumbling down here at Suncorp Stadium ahead of the Dolphins Cowboys. I think it's a passing shower. Can we just unpack, and there's a bit of wind coming through, can we just unpack, please, Vegas? Can we just recap it, and we'll put it to bed now? A roaring success. So there's no doubt that there were some question marks before it. How was it going to work? How was it going to appeal? I think we all now know that PVL's a superstar, and it has gone to a whole nother level, this game, off the back of what were 2 phenomenal games of rugby league.
Well, it exceeded my expectations. I was there probably 6 weeks earlier with the Matty John show, and we went to do filming, and no one knew. Like, we had cameras everywhere on the strip, and we know that the Americans love a camera, so they were asking. No one knew too much about it. Well, fast forward 6 weeks, I'm playing golf, and the caddy for the guy that was playing with me was saying, like, the rugby's coming and all that. So I think it was a buzz. I think, the way the competition kicked off here, the international travellers, like, don't forget that when COVID hit, the only game or the first game to start was rugby league. So to walk the streets and have people from Houston or, all these different parts of America walk up, that was the eye-opener for me, that we got a really small footprint there. It's tiny. It's a tiny footprint at the moment, but in the next 5 years, we just got to make that bigger. It's as simple as that.
It appealed to the American audience. I know the numbers and the naysayers will go, there was only a certain amount of viewers in America. But let's be honest.
That could be jealousy too.
It's a starting point. Let's have a look what it's like in 5 years' time.
I love someone from Boston. There was some guy that tweeted it looked like a human cockfight when he was watching the game. So it was just making traction everywhere, and it's a totally different game, but it's so similar to gridiron, and that's where we've probably all started from the same sport. Like they talk about rugby started from the William Webb Ellis or whatever. I think that we've all pretty much evolved from the same sport, and they get 4 downs, we get 6, and I think the more they see it, I think the more they're going to like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I come from an area where rugby league isn't part of the culture. It isn't part of it's not ingrained. So I was at school. I was the only kid that played any form of rugby. So I know what it's like to be new to the sport. Fortunately, through my father, long story, but I got introduced to the game and I fell in love with it. But, most people, so if you grew up in Sydney or Brisbane, it's part of the DNA. It's part of the culture. It's the everyday environment. It's what people talk about. It's something that people look forward to. So we know and love it for good reason. But when you take it to new markets, all you need is the exposure. And people will fall in love with it. because it is the great product. How many times I've spoke to people over here in Sydney and in Brisbane that come from non-rugby league areas, so people from the south of England, and they are now nailed on NRL fans because they see it, they're exposed to it each and every week. It's part of the culture. They're not going, oh, what's this game?
Yeah.
It's no good. You just need a permanent footprint and a permanent impression to make on the American market. So I know I heard Peter V'landys speak at one of the lunches. One of the goals is to have an NRL game played on the television, that is, over in the States, one game a week, which I think would just have such a huge effect. If we can get our product on each and every week and in the hearts and minds of the American public, some, not millions, a couple of 100,000, then we're laughing all the way to the bank.
You only got to look at Brian Carney, right? Brian Carney was in a pub in Ireland, and up popped State of Origin, and he looked at it and he goes, I want to play that game.
Yeah.
So then he goes and plays in England, comes out and plays for Newcastle, and that's
There's a legend there. Yeah.
Well, but then basically you just got to put it on somewhere. Like the reason why all our guys, like most NRL players, wear NBA singlets is because they watch it. Right, the gridiron, like it's just got so big here, or like the American football. Like, mate, when I was first playing rugby league, you didn't really know too much about it. I went and met the Denver Broncos, and then now there's, like, if it's good enough for the San Diego Chargers to come out and play at Homebush, if it was good enough for the Dodgers to come out and play at the SCG, just to push their product, it mightn't have made everybody get up and tune in, but it might have sold more Dodgers hats or, more people. But now I think the Super Bowl in Australia is on the calendar. And 10 years ago, it wasn't.
Well, speaking of the Super Bowl, Gordon, we were all lucky enough to be there. It's still incredible now to think that only a couple of weeks prior to that, the Kansas City Chiefs had won the Super Bowl in that exact stadium.
The paint was still on the field.
That's right. You could still see the Kansas City Chiefs logo on the field. So don't worry about an 11 out of 10 experience. I thought it was a 15 out of 10 experience. What I loved the most was all the travelling fans that had not only come from Australia, 15,000 people from Australia, but then I reckon I met 5,000 Poms at least, Jimmy.
And
there
expats.
were so many people from
expats
the north of England that were getting around. Those scenes in Fremont Street were absolutely brilliant for the game. You can't put a price on that sort of thing.
I saw, like, we did the Matty John show and we walked off set. There's Jamaicans all in their shirts. Like those 4 Jamaicans that come over.
I met them. I thought it was like,
mate, so did I. And there was French, there was all these people. But the one that, like, there's people in the hotel hanging around the foyer.
Yeah.
And they'd have NRL shirts. And I'd go, oh, g'day, how you going? And they had the thickest South or Texan accent.
They were on tours.
And they just loved it. And they were American. And that's the part that I like. So next time if they bring 3 mates and 4 mates and 5 mates, maybe by the 5th year, right, there's 15,000 US guys there, and then the next year there's 20, and then you just keep on building it like that.
In the match against the Brisbane Broncos, an allegation was made by Ezra Mam on the field, which then put Spencer Leniu on report. The allegation was that he had been called a monkey, and it dragged on for a few days. It escalated after the match, and obviously Spencer came out. He believed what said on the field should stay on the field. Later in the week, I think it was Thursday, there was a statement where he has apologised and admitted guilt. Now, the Broncos have acknowledged their apology. They haven't accepted it. They've made that very clear. He will go to the judiciary tomorrow, 6:15, where he will find out exactly his punishment. Hoops, I'm going to start with you. Firstly, what should we expect? There's been some talk of 12 weeks, which I think is too much. Somewhere in between, 6 and 12, is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, I think it'll probably be between about 6 and 8, I would suggest, Dobbo. I mean, look, nobody likes what's happened here, and Spencer has put his hand up and he has admitted that he did do the wrong thing. He has said what he said to Ezra on the field of play over in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. And as a result of that, I think that he can expect that he is going to be sitting on the sidelines for a significant period of time. I would suggest that it is between 6 and 8 weeks. And I'd say that we'll see all that come to fruition tomorrow.
7 weeks would be round 9, and they play the Broncos.
But they've got to play them again. Anyway. So, that's...
They're going to play...
paper, they made a big deal of that. They're going to play each other again. No doubt Roosters and Brisbane will play each other, whether it's next year or whatever. that is going to happen. So whether it's the first game back, that's probably when
Gordy,
you want to, because he's going to be out of nick.
Gordy, you're a proud Indigenous man, proud Indigenous man. How do you take this saga, and how did it make you feel? And do you think
It didn't make me feel anything
at all?
It wasn't said to me, no. And you, I mean, like I talk to my kid, like it's strange, right? My dad was the first Indigenous captain to leave this country, right? And I'm proud of who he is, and he's been out on this field and all that kind of stuff. But for me, right, he brought me up with thicker skin, right? Whether it's right or wrong, he told me, the sticks and stones, that's the era that I grew up in. So when people would call names, whatever, and my skin's not as dark as Ezra's, right? So I probably didn't cop as much. Nobody probably knew my background. So I escaped a lot of it, right? But growing up, I had to have thicker skin, right? And then I saw the way people looked at me when I walked down the street when I was with my dad or with my mum. And I saw that, when little Billy or my elder sons, Ethan and Jackson, two little blonde-headed guys, and they go to kindy, and it's grandfather day, and the dad's really dark walking them in. Like, I see the response because it's unusual. But the only thing I know that if you say something and you hurt someone's feelings, you've said the wrong thing.
Exactly.
That is the only way I look at this. And Ezra Mam, I've met him. He's a lovable guy. He doesn't tell lies. To what I know, I think he's a stand-up man. He's really proud of where he comes from, and it's hurt his feelings. So whether those comments would have hurt me, it's not for me to say, but it hurt Ezra Mam, and he's a person that's playing our game. And if it's hurt his feelings, you've said the wrong thing, and the game has to come. And full credit to Spencer Leniu that he's owned up. He's put his hand up and said, well, I've said the wrong thing. That's the first thing. And then I look at it as a guy now that's been retired for 30 years, and I look back at the game, and we're proud and the work that we're doing in the game, and the players' voices have been the loudest. Billy Walters, Payne Haas, Patrick Carrigan, there's three teammates, Nico Hines, Latrell Mitchell. The players are standing up. So if the players don't want it in the game, I think that's the strongest voice that I've ever heard, because before it would be, toughen up or whatever it was. But now we know that it's not a part of society. They are guys that people look up to. And if it happens on a sports field, they think they can happen in the streets, or if it happens in the streets, it can happen here. And I think everybody's handled it pretty well so far, because it is a touchy. Everybody's got an opinion of it. Everybody wants to have their say. It's uncomfortable talking about it.
Well,
it's uncomfortable talking about it, like when we're so old, it's been around for so long, and we're still talking about the same issues.
Phil Rothfield's written an article saying that, and that potentially it looks like that now Spencer's saying that he was called a name prior to him reacting to that.
Why didn't he say it earlier?
Well, that's the
Why
question.
did he go? No. See, so this is my opinion, right? When he got asked, mate, what happens on the field stays on the field. He would have said, listen, there was a bit of chat between. That's what happens. Oh, mate, it was back and forth. Yeah, the boys were saying a bit, and we had a crack. There was none of that. Then after it, what happens on the field stays on the field. Didn't he front him at the hotel?
Yeah.
So it didn't stay on the field.
Well, he was disappointed.
No. Listen to that. It didn't stay on the field. So what happens on the field stays on the field. If that's his motto, that's his motto. But then he took it off the field. He went to the hotel, and I feel the Broncos boys had to stand up, and I thought it was going to be on. So he didn't leave it on the field. And let me tell you something about Spencer, and this is not about Spencer. I was about to do the Matty John show. He was walking off, still mouthing off, going off his nana, just yelling out, bagging them, and saying still inappropriate things. Right? So don't say it was a one-off thing, because he was still walking around the back of the field. So just don't bullshit, right? Take it on the chin. So I said the wrong thing. They go, he said it first, because that's my kid. I say, well, don't retaliate. You got to be a bigger man. So you can't say it now that you got caught. But he did it too.
Yeah.
Mate, that he did it too in my house doesn't work. It doesn't mean you're allowed to do it.
Can I ask you, and I'd love to know this, what I'm most disappointed about all this is that we've got two unbelievably proud Indigenous men in Latrell Mitchell and Anthony Mundine, who have both been huge advocates for the Indigenous.
Yep.
And they're now at each other. They're now publicly having a brawl over this situation. Surely, we've come so far in this game that we get everybody on the same page. I hate the fact that we've now, and Anthony's one of your best mates, Gordon.
But that's what I'm saying. Chalk's come through my era where you just had to toughen up. It's not right or wrong. That's what I'm saying. It's not right or wrong. I play with Anthony. I've watched him walk the streets. I know the criticism. I used to go to a pub and watch people yell out for him to get knocked out, Australians. So I know that he's been through a rougher road than most people when it comes to the colour of his skin. And yes, he didn't help, and he's a bit outspoken, and he put himself out there, and he put his chin so far out there. But it's a different opinion. And I think that the two opinions that count the most, and that's why I said right at the beginning, and I'll say it again, is Ezra Mam and Spencer Leniu.
Yep.
It's got nothing to do with me, and I feel sorry for like Ezra, and the next time I see him, and believe it or not, I walked off the plane with Spencer Leniu. I said, "Oh, how's it going? What sort of happening?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't know yet." So I'll talk about it. I'm not going to think less of Spencer. I'm not going to think more of Ezra. They're still two human beings, and what they've said is like hurtful to Ezra. And I know from talking to some of my mates at the Broncos that it's actually that he was visibly upset.
Very upset in the change rooms.
That he was really upset about it.
Even that night, he was very, very shaken up by it. I know that Dave Donaghy had spent a lot of time with him. I know the welfare officer had gone and spent an enormous amount of time with him. He was very upset about it. He left the field straight away. As soon as the game was over, didn't shake anybody's hand, straight off the field. And the mail I got was in tears in the dressing shed. It affected him that much. Now, in anybody, as you said, Gordon, it might not affect you, it might not hurt you, but if it does hurt someone...
you've said, and then that's what I've always taught my kids. If you say something and you hurt their feelings, you've actually said the wrong thing. So as I said, the thing that's ringing the loudest in my ears are the players don't like it. So in my era, whether there was some players that I know that probably got sledged and had to keep it under their hat because it was a man's game and you couldn't show weakness. I'm glad that the players now are saying, "No, let's stand up for something." Like that's the thing that I like that's come out of this situation the most.
What happens now, Hoops, and how does everybody move on from it?
Well, they'll front the judiciary tomorrow night. There'll be a sentence, be it 6 weeks, be it 8 weeks, be it 10 weeks, whatever that particular judiciary panel, chaired by Jeff Bellew, lands on, and then the next steps will begin to take place.
It's difficult predicament now because
of the public way.
Well, in terms of whatever the ban is, whether the story continues on, it's either going to be not enough or some are going to feel like it's too much.
Generally, when players put their hand up and admit that they've done the wrong thing and are prepared to go down to NRL headquarters and say, "Yes, I am guilty, I did do that," it's similar to other courts of law where if you do
a lesser sentence,
you will get a little bit of leniency, just the slightest bit. I'm not suggesting for a minute here that he's only going to get 2 or 3 weeks. I don't think he will. But that's generally the way that it plays out historically. That's what history tells you when it comes to the NRL judiciary.
The thing I don't understand, and this is, it was Thursday. This happened on Saturday American time, and we got to Thursday Australian time when we finally got an admission of guilt.
Yeah, well, there was a lot going on, Dobbin, and I'm not saying that makes it okay, right? But we've nearly had a stink at the hotel between both groups in the aftermath of it.
Yep.
Ezra is clearly extremely upset, and understandably so. Then everybody has to get on planes, get back here.
And then they want to talk to their lawyer or whatever.
That's right, yeah.
Mate, look, there's a lot that has to go under the bridge.
There was a bit happening, but I think Spencer, one thing that Spencer's got right is that he has said, rather than going, "Oh, no, I didn't say that," or, "Oh, no, I said something that sounded like that wasn't really that," or whatever else, he's owned it.
There does seem like there's an agenda, though, today being pushed through the newspapers that, he comes from the streets of Mount Druitt, he was called something. That's all now starting to come out today.
No, it doesn't matter.
I realise that, but that's what's in the papers today.
No. We all become one when you put on a footy jersey. That's the street you walk in. Right? Don't worry about where we come from, mate. We all come from the different sides of the street to play this amazing game. So we can't talk about where we come from because he's jumped a lot of hurdles and roadblocks to get himself to that position. To play in grand finals and to be the man that one of the richest and proudest clubs in our game went out there and headhunted him for. So you can't go back to who you were as a kid.
if you want to go down that road too, well, what about Ezra's history and what about where Ezra's from? And
No question.
Yeah.
Proud Torres Strait Island. I'm just saying, in the paper today,
Yeah.
there is a line. Oh well, he won. He chose not to mention. Exact words were, it is alleged that he made a derogatory remark towards the Roosters proper Broncos player, which he then reacted with a racial slur. And Leniu chose not to go public with the details of what was said that triggered his brain
So how did
explosion.
it get to the paper then?
Well,
And then name the place. See, and this is
who's
another
made
thing.
the remark?
This is another thing, right? Ezra
well,
Mam.
Phil Rothfield's written his article,
Ezra Mam,
and this is
like,
where it's come.
Listen. That's paper talk. Ezra Mam and Billy Slater run straight up to him. They knew exactly who
Billy
it was.
Walters.
Billy
Right?
Walters,
Sorry, Billy Walters.
Yeah.
Run straight up to him. If that happened and say, no, that guy there did, I wouldn't tar all the Broncos. I wouldn't tar that. I'd say, he called me that and name him.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to name him, you don't say anything.
Yeah. 3 impact statements. Payne Haas, Billy Walters and Ezra Mam all wrote an impact statement that it's going to be tabled at the judiciary on Monday night. And they've all said the same thing.
And a lot of the Broncos are filthy.
Absolutely filthy. I've spoken to a few of them. They really write off and are really upset
Yeah.
by what has gone on. And more disappointed that it went on back at the team hotel. That was what really, like, brain explosion on the field.
Yep. And you can live with that.
Apology afterwards in the sheds, or listen, I'm really sorry, I shouldn't have said it.
Yep.
But the fact that it went on at the hotel, and you're right, Gordon, it nearly came to fists. It nearly came to fists at the team hotel. And if it wasn't for some smart thinking media operators who got in there, like the media manager, I think Alex was there, and she pulled it up from the Roosters.
Yep.
And because it was about to erupt. So, I mean, either way, tomorrow we get a result and we can start the healing process. But the relationship between the Roosters and the Broncos now, that's fractured.
Hoops, do they draw a line in the sand? This is another thing. This is all the grey areas for me. Do they hit him really hard on the wrist?
Yeah, that's certainly one line of thinking. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the judiciary, and nobody, doesn't matter what we say here and there,
No, mate, I get that
nobody
then.
can influence them.
No.
But certainly, when you've had players of the magnitude in the game like Latrell Mitchell come out and say enough is enough, even though the judiciary are all advised not to take any of the commentary, any of the headlines, it has to be completely independent, don't let any of that influence you. There's no question when it's as big a case as what this has now become, that it's a big moment for the game tomorrow night. And the thing is as well, that only adds further to the entire scenario. They're two of the biggest clubs in the game.
Yeah.
Like the Broncos are coming off making the grand final last year, and they're such a power club, and so are the Roosters.
Yeah.
And so behind the scenes,
Played
there's
against
going to
grand
be a
finals,
lot of stuff
taking
going.
players off each other. They're just there's a bit of history with those two clubs.
Will you be live from the judiciary on 360 tomorrow night? Will James Hooper be outside live, breaking down the story to 360?
At 6:15.
I think I am.
Yeah, you'll be there, no
Just
question.
tomorrow night, yeah. Are
He's
you
there.
going?
He's very, very good with
you
that. You
going?
are very good in
Are
front
you
of the
going?
No, mate. I don't travel.
Oh.
You know that. I don't travel.
Oh, you don't travel?
No.
You
I don't
travel. You
travel.
just travelled over to Vegas.
Mate, listen.
That was different.
Listen here. Arthritis can get into any joint. He gets in everywhere. Oh, arthritis.